market for a handmade classical guitar, but you're not sure where to start. Maybe you're wondering if you're ready. How do you know if you're ready for such an instrument? Maybe you're not sure how much to spend. What would be a good price, or what would be worth it to spend such an amount on an instrument like this. Maybe you're not sure, what to look for, or where to get something like this. So in this video, we're going to go over all of these different areas. I kind of thought about all the important things that you'll need to know if you're in the market for such an instrument. I've been through this process many times. I've made a lot of guitar videos on YouTube, on my channel, and on other channels as well. And in nearly every single video I've ever made, you'll find me playing a handmade classical guitar. I really love these instruments. I absolutely appreciate them. I think they're totally one of a kind, and when it's the right fit, for the person behind it, it is just an unbeatable combination. I've been through this process of buying one many times, and so I know what it's like to go through the options. I know what it feels like to find something that really feels right, and something that you really feel grabs you when it's just a really nice fit. It's a good relationship right off the bat. And I've helped other people go through this process as well. Students of mine that are looking for a guitar, we've talked about it. They decide they're ready for something like this, and we go and we find the best guitar for them. And it's really a great thing when that happens. So I'll put timestamps for this video if you need to jump around and look at something in particular, but I want to go through all of these different areas so that you have as much information as you need if you are looking to buy a handmade classical guitar. So the first, thing I want to say is, what is a handmade classical guitar? What happens if you go to Guitar Center and you say, I want to look at your handmade classical guitars? Well, they will show you some guitars, but they will not be handmade. So if you go to a place like Guitar Center, or you look at the guitars, on an online, a big online retail store, they will have classical guitars. They will have nylon string guitars, but as far as I know, as far as I have ever seen, all of these guitars will be factory assembled. Okay, they're production models. That means mostly they're put together by machines or in a machine-like way. Maybe a few people's hands, touch the guitar here and there, but they're put together by a bunch of different people or a bunch of different mechanisms to make a production model. You can have 50 of the same type of guitars. Basically, they're going to sound the same. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that allows these companies to sell these guitars for much, much cheaper prices. No doubt sounds more lucrative than building handmade classical guitars. I imagine that, it's one of the reasons why these companies make a ton of money. But a handmade classical guitar is built from start to finish by one person. That we call a guitar luthier. That's somebody that builds guitars. So sometimes you may find instances where a couple of people worked on a guitar, but mostly it's one person from start to finish. They cut out the wood, they shape it, they do everything: the construction, the bracing, the finish. I mean, they are involved in every single step, and they use their hands. They're feeling everything. They get the measurements, they get the thickness, everything exactly how they want. And it is a completely different instrument as a result. You get an instrument that is, it's going to make a better sound in general, like a nicer sound, a louder sound. But it's also infinitely more versatile. These guitars, we'll talk more about this, but they can really teach you things. And you can just use them in a totally different way than you can, a factory assembled guitar. These handmade guitars are an absolute work of art. To me, they're as much of a work of art as any musician that's behind them playing them, or any piece that you play and you think is an amazing work of art. It takes luthier probably at least 4 months to build one of these instruments. but maybe more like 6 or 8, kind of depending on the circumstances. So that's a long time, but that's what it takes. And we don't have a substitute for that process except, one brilliant individual knowing exactly what they want to get out of these pieces of wood and metal that they're putting together, and then putting some strings on it and making it do amazing things. So just suffice it to say, because I get asked this question by students, they kind of they're looking for an answer where they say, well, but can't I get, the classical guitar effect? Can't I get the handmade effect, with the cheaper guitar if I just practice a lot? No, you can't. It doesn't mean that you can't do a lot on a cheaper guitar, and I'm going to talk more about that next, but you cannot duplicate the sound, you cannot duplicate the feeling, and you don't get the benefit from a production model guitar that you get from a handmade classical guitar. I really do consider it its own instrument. It's that different that, in my mind, it deserves its own designation of instrument. So now that we know what we're talking about, I want to talk about, are you ready for such an instrument? How do you know if you're ready? As you can imagine, these instruments are not cheap. So, is it going to be worth it? So I'm not one of those people that everybody I work with, I immediately say, well, you got to get an expensive instrument. You just have to get one. Everybody has to have one. That's not really what I believe. So if somebody is brand new, I think as long as they have a halfway decent instrument to work with, that's where we need to be. Now, at a certain point in time, I will say, let's think about getting a new instrument, a handmade instrument. So here are the type of things that when I see a certain combination of them, I think, okay, this person might be ready. I think you may be ready if, you've been playing a little while. Okay, you're not a fresh beginner. You've been studying classical, or you've been studying flamenco or fingerstyle in general, and you made some good work. You have some technique. You can play some nice pieces. You either have a teacher that you work really well with, and y'all are making good progress together, or you can do it on your own and you're happy with the way things are going, and over time you're becoming more interested. And you're like, well, this stuff is great. And I'm learning that, yeah, some things about practice is difficult, but then I see the results and I like that. And I kind of want more. Maybe I feel like I want to take things up to another level. Like everything up to another level. I'm ready. I'm interested in this world and I want to get more immersed in it, okay? I want a better tool to work with. I want a more versatile tool to work with. I think I'm ready for something like that, okay? So if you're feeling those kind of things, you're probably ready for such an instrument. And then I would say one more thing on top of that. If you feel like you're ready to listen to yourself play, kind of with a new level of responsibility. One of the hardest things to do for anybody is while you're playing to also be listening to yourself. Okay. What's easy to do is to say, well, here's what I want to come out. And so I just really hope it's that. I'm just really gonna really hope that it sounds like that, but I'm not actually gonna pay attention with my ears and see how close am I. Okay. That's something that we all kind of have to work through, and it is difficult. It can be a struggle. But if you're ready to kind of recommit yourself to really paying attention to what comes out when you make sound, then you're ready for an instrument like this. Because what my teacher told me, and I was very fortunate to have an amazing musician as a teacher. There's no substitute for that. There's just not. What he told me is that a great guitar, he said, it pulls you up. It pulls you along. It teaches you. And when he said that to me, I kind of thought, huh? What are you talking about? And of course, at some point I realized, yeah, you're absolutely right. And the more that you learn to listen to yourself, listen to what the guitar is doing, you're literally being taught by the guitar. The guitar will tell you what it likes. It will tell you what it doesn't like. and it will tell you what it loves. And because these guitars are all individually handmade, they're all unique. I mean, no two guitars are exactly the same. You're going to get, if you're familiar with a maker, you will kind of know what you're working with in general, but they're handmade. So they're going to, in some ways, respond differently. And there is a lot to be learned from an instrument like that. So if those things sound appealing to you, and of course, they sound better than a production model. They're going to be louder than a production model. Right away when you play one, you're going to say, oh, I've never sounded so good. Well, yeah, sure. But as far as the learning aspect and the music making, basically working on your artistry, this is something that will really teach you a lot of things that I don't really know how you learn otherwise. So, and the last thing about being ready is you are going to have to pay for one of these instruments. Okay, they don't come cheap. Maybe you can find a great deal, and if so, that's fantastic. We'll talk about what that means here in a bit. But, I wouldn't recommend anybody to, cross your fingers that your lights aren't going to be turned off because you just went and bought this guitar and, now you can't pay your light bill. I wouldn't say that. I would say when you can spend that amount of money, that, of course, is also an important factor to say, now I have the interest, I want more, I'm ready to up my game, I'm ready to listen better. Bam, you're ready for an instrument like this. So the next thing, of course, is very important, is price range. What can you expect to spend on such an instrument? What's a good deal, what's a bad deal? And I have pretty specific numbers that I recommend to spend and also not to spend. So for people that are starting out, and this is really what I think, if you're beginning or if you have a child that's beginning, I would spend like $300 max. There's companies that make really decent guitars, and I'm not affiliated with any of these. I teach and I play music in my house mostly, so I don't tour the world playing guitar, okay? So no affiliation. But Cordoba makes a really good $200 or $300 model, and there are other brands that I can't really think of another one off the top of my head, but that make comparable models, okay? No bells and whistles. That's fine. You don't actually need any of that for a nylon string, so don't worry about it having a built-in tuner. You can get a tuner that's like $18 to put on the end. You don't need a preamp. You're not going to be working with any of that stuff with nylon string. Don't worry about it. You don't need a cutaway. It hurts the sound of the nylon string. Don't worry about it. They're very basic. Basically, they're going to look like something like this one here in general, just in terms of the overall appearance. Very basic features, okay? You can do a lot of great work on an instrument like that. And I think, especially like for young people, if you're not really sure how it's going to, if it's going to stick with them, if they end up hating it and you don't want to take lessons anymore, then you don't want to have spent thousands of dollars on an instrument. $200, $300, that's really all that I think you need to spend, basically for a while. I had a student not too long ago that got like a $400 Cordoba, and it was nice. Like, it still didn't have any of these extra features that, you don't really need, but some guitars might offer. And I thought it sounded good. Maybe a little better than like the $300 model. So, if you're trying to save money, is it worth that extra $100? I'd probably say no. If you're okay with spending the extra $100 and you just like, what? I just want to make sure it's the nicer one, then that works great. That would be fine. That sounds like that'd be a good fit for you. Now after that, so that's like this price range, right? I would not spend any money really for anybody in this range, okay, until you hit 5 G's, $5,000. That is the range where I would now say it's worth your money, and now you are in the handmade classical guitar range. So I'm making this video in 2023, so this is the current prices, at this time. And if you get a handmade classical guitar or concert guitar for $5,000 and you love the instrument and it's a great fit, I think that's a fantastic deal. I know that that's a high number. I know it's a lot to spend on an instrument, probably a lot higher than a lot of people want to hear. But here's the thing, um, you know, basically from seeing a lot of these guitars and seeing how they're priced, you might find a really good guitar. If you can find like a really young luthier who just started, who's really good, which may be hard to gauge if they've just started, and if you're still trying to build your feel for these instruments, it may be hard to tell. But they may have, maybe like a good guitar for like $4,000, okay. But I don't think it's feasible for guitar luthiers to charge anything less than that, and I don't think they should. I mean, I think that their instruments are worth every penny, actually. So you will find, if you go to like a retail shop or if you look online, yeah, you'll find what is promoted as a really nice classical guitar for like 3,500 or 2,500, okay? And I've not seen one of these instruments that I think is worth the money. If you're a musician and you need something very specific, you might find what you're looking for in this range. But if you are, you're not like a working musician, you're learning casually because you're interested, and you're not making your living off of it. You don't know that you need something exactly specific. I need this amount with the truss rod and a built-in preamp and the cutaway and the thick finish because I want to be touring all for months at a time and I don't want to sweat the finish off. If none of that really means anything to you, I really wouldn't recommend anything in that middle range because it's just not worth your money. What I would say is if you have $2 or $3 to spend that you saved up, I would say that's fantastic. Just be patient and keep saving, okay? And if you're getting the itch to spend it, just hold off. And then when you get to the 5 level, okay, now we're talking serious business. Now you can spend the money, and now you're going to get a very worthwhile return on your investment. Okay, this is like an investment. And I'm not just talking about resale. Markets. The guitar market is like any market. It goes up and down. It changes. Different luthiers are popular or more or less popular. They can charge a little more, a little less, whatever. So you may be able to resell it later, maybe get your money back, maybe even make some money. I don't know. But for me, the return on your investment is the joy that it brings as you play it. The way that it makes you feel, knowing that you sound better than you ever have, and the things that it teaches you. I mean, the knowledge. You will get return on your investment in terms of the development of your artistry. Okay, that's important to some people. It's not important to some people. So if that is important to you, then again, I would say don't have your lights cut off because you bought a guitar. But if you decide you can afford it and the guitar feels like a really good match for you, I think it's definitely worth it. So at least $5,000, and then I also tell people spend as much as you can. If a guitar is 6 or if it's 8, and if you can spend that, and that is the best match for you, it's a good deal. I mean, these are amazing works of art. So now that we've got a few things out of the way, now let's pretend that you're looking at guitars, and let's talk about the 2 main types of wood, probably the only 2 types of wood that you are going to see when it comes to the top of the guitar. So the top is this piece that is facing you right here, right? That's the top. These are the sides, and then this is the back. Now everything on the guitar affects the sound, okay? Even like the tuners affect the sound. Everything does. But the thing that gives the sound the most effect and the main quality of its voice is going to be the top. Okay. Now you might think like, well, I bet people build guitars out of all kind of woods, maple and birch and whatever. And basically there's only 2 types of wood that are used. Spruce and cedar. And I've seen this pretty much without exception. I have seen people build guitars with other types of wood for the top, but their goal was purely aesthetic. They wanted to build guitars that looked different. That's why they used the woods that they used. And I've never heard one of these guitars. If you go see any classical guitarists or flamenco guitarists in concert, I can just guarantee you, unless something changes, they're gonna be playing a guitar where the top is either spruce or cedar. Okay, now there's no wrong answer here. They have some different qualities. I'll give you some things to look for if you've never experienced kind of the difference between the two. But there's no wrong answer. Some people prefer spruce guitars. Some people prefer cedar guitars. I have some of both because I think they're both great and they do different things. So, if you get a cedar, if you ever get another guitar, you could get a spruce or vice versa, right? But a lot of people do have their preferences. So first I'll talk about spruce because spruce is the traditional tone wood. As far as I know, violins have always been made out of spruce and other stringed instruments. And the the granddaddy of classical guitar building, basically the guy who codified the instrument that is this instrument that we now call the classical guitar. His name was Antonio de Torres Guardo, and I'm pretty sure I need to double check this. I'm pretty sure that he only used spruce. I think it was him that said that cedar was for cabinets and tables, something like that. So spruce is the more traditional, and general qualities of spruce. It's probably going to be brighter sounding, kind of have a faster response, a faster attack, kind of maybe be poppier in the sound. And then the spruce quality to me is this kind of woody quality. Almost like a little bit of, I don't know, I want to say roughness in the sound. Not in a bad way, but just something that describes, that to me I want to describe as it almost sounds woody. But those are things that are generally associated with spruce. I mean, they're also very clear, right? Now cedar has become increasingly popular in the last 50 years or something like that. Cedar is probably going to sound more full. It's probably going to sound more warm. It's probably going to sound more deep. And kind of has some of those type of qualities. Now, I have heard cedar tops that sound nice and bright. I have heard spruce tops that sound really full. And of course, it also has to do with the way that you play them, the way that you treat them. One last thing about spruce is that it will develop more over the years. It continues to when you first get a guitar, if it hasn't really been played and you're playing it, you're kind of breaking it in, okay? The cedar is going to have more of a plateau type of effect. I would say not an absolute plateau, but it will be less likely to further develop after a certain point. The spruce always continues to develop. I can't explain why. That's just the reputation that spruce has. So that's pretty interesting. So if you play a brand new spruce, if it's a brand spanking new, it's not going to sound good. If you play a 40-year-old spruce guitar that's been played a lot, it's going to sound freaking amazing. I mean, there's kind of going to be no substitute for that. But those are just some general qualities that you might run into with spruce or cedar. And there's not really a wrong answer. It just depends on what you feel like responds to you. I've heard reasons that people say they don't like spruce guitars or that they don't like cedar guitars or whatever. It's really not super relevant here, except to say you feel like you're getting, the sound out of the wood that you feel like is your sound, and it's bringing those qualities, to life, and it's the sound that appeals to you the most. Now, once we're out of the woods with wood type for the top, I want to talk a little bit about the bracing, because this is, I don't want to go into detail with the builds of these guitars, but the bracing is fundamentally important to the sound, and you're probably going to run into, a few different approaches in that area. People can do some very different things at this point, and people are always trying new things with the bracing, like kind of doing hybrid things and stuff like that. So by bracing, I mean there are braces, like very specifically shaped slats of wood that are glued under the top. This is built in the traditional Spanish style, basically the Torres style, which people continue to modify. So it has a fan pattern. So under this guitar, I think this is a 5 fan, although I'm not exactly sure. It's going to branch out in a fan like that, the braces. That is the traditional Spanish pattern. It's still very popular. If you buy a guitar from a Spanish luthier, they probably are using the Spanish fan. Although, like I said, a lot of people modify it. They may add a brace going this way, or they may add, one here or something like that. People try all kind of different things. But the Spanish bracing is going to be based on a fan, a 5 fan or a 7 fan, something like that. Now you also have lattice braced guitars. So that's going to be some kind of like crisscross bracing, where it's going to be like this, and then the other way, like this, I guess, where it makes like the crisscross, right? Now, I'm pointing this out because these different bracing patterns, they give really different responses, and the guitars just operate differently. They will lend it certain advantages, but everything in this area is give and take. So you may gain some of these things, but you may lose some of these things. And another bracing pattern may have some of these things, but not as many of these things. Okay? So you may find either a Spanish fan, a lattice. You may find some kind of combination of both, or something way different that I've never even seen before. I mean, like I said, people are trying out all kind of different things. One of the most popular makers right now, he uses like a Spanish fan pattern, but his braces don't fan. They're straight. Okay? And I don't know. I mean, I can't even begin to explain why that works, but his guitars are worth like 50 grand. So something works. But I don't think, I'm not going to push for one or the other. I have my preferences, but I don't really think it's relevant. And also, I've been surprised. Sometimes, a guitar gets in my hands and I think, well, I didn't really think I liked these type of brace guitars, but this one, really does it for me. But just to say, probably whoever you're buying from, they should know what the bracing pattern is. Anyone that I would recommend to someone to, go get a guitar from them, they definitely know. I mean, they can tell you about the maker, they can tell you what the bracing pattern is, and they can even tell you, this has got the lattice brace, so it really likes to do this and that. That one's got the Spanish fan, so it really likes to do that, and that. But it's just nice to know, kind of for general information and to help build your perception. I think what's more important is just you feeling like you're getting the response that really like turns you on about it. Okay, not going for one specifically, but then learning about what that bracing pattern is, it will enhance your knowledge. So those are just a few that you probably will run into. The Spanish fan is more traditional. The lattice is more modern. And then something, with a combination, I guess that would be under the modern category as well. So just a couple of different, general areas for builds there that you probably will find. I did want to mention like a little like bells and whistles category. There's one of these things I do want to talk about, but basically, like if you look at this guitar here, it doesn't have any of these like bells and whistles, like extra features that I'm about to mention. So some guitars have like a beveled edge right here. I mean, this is like a straight 90-degree like normal edge. Some makers, they like do like a 45-degree angle thing here, and so when your arm rests on it, it's not on the edge, and it moves smoother across. I actually, somebody gave me a guitar that has one of those, and it's actually pretty cool. I mean, I didn't really think anything of it, but then I played it, and I was like, yeah, this is actually neat. Also, some guitars have an elevated fingerboard. So this, again, is traditional. So if you look, you can see where the fingerboard is. The elevated fingerboard will sit like here. It's going to give you like another 1.5 inches of height. And those do feel pretty nice if you're playing up there, in the high positions. Or there's sound ports. Sound ports are going to be a literal hole right there in the side. So there will be like a baseball-sized hole cut out right here. Some people have one here and one here. Okay. Some people do like a design, so they do like a big hole and like 2 little holes and a small hole or something. Whatever. I don't think any of these trinkets are make or break. I can't imagine not getting a guitar because it didn't have one of these or because it did have one of these. If I just felt like it was a great fit and it had an elevated fingerboard, to me, that's just kind of the way that the guitar is built. Most of the time still, I don't find any of these features. So that tells me most people, as of 2023, they still believe in not building with these things. But I certainly understand people looking to add something extra to their guitars, and all these things do have their advantages. But I do want to talk about the sound ports, because you need to be careful with sound ports. Now, I will tell you my opinion on sound ports, which is that I don't believe in them. Like, I don't believe in them. I've heard luthiers swear on their life by them, that they make the guitar sound better. Okay? Again, the sound port is going to be a hole in the side. So when you play, you're not just getting sound coming out of here, you're getting sound coming out of here. And then some people use more than one, okay? Now, the reason why I say, I don't believe that they make the guitar sound better. It doesn't make sense to me in terms of physics. The guitar makes sound because there's air coming out of the sound hole. And if there's air coming out the side or the sides, there has to be less coming out the front. If there's something I don't understand about that, let me know. Because maybe I don't know how to do math. I am a musician after all. But I have never been convinced that a sound port makes a guitar sound better. That's what I believe, okay? But I don't care if you like sound ports or not. Here's why I'm telling you about them. Because be careful if you're playing several guitars and some of them have sound ports and some of them don't. Because the thing about playing a guitar with a sound port is that it will sound better to you as you're playing it. Okay, they do give you like more of a peek into what the guitar may sound like, kind of in its guts, right? So normally when you're playing the guitar, you're like this, and like the sound is going like this, okay? So you can hear it fine, but you don't really get the effect of being in front of it, okay? For that, you'd have to record yourself or have your buddy play it, and then you can kind of say, oh, well, this is what it sounds like in the front. But with the sound port, you're going to get this huge sound coming right in your face. And it's going to sound giant. It's going to sound great, okay? But it doesn't mean that the guitar with the sound port is going to sound better than a guitar without it from the front, okay? And this may be a reason why some luthiers use them, and I really can't blame them. And people trying to sell guitars, but it's just fact of the matter. So what I would do is I wouldn't play a guitar with a sound port. I would put something on it. Because if you decide this is the perfect guitar for you and you end up buying that guitar, then take that off and enjoy the sound port if you want or whatever. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that. If you just love the feeling of the sound port just blasting sound in your face, then that sounds like a good fit for you. But I don't want anybody to be confused about, well, I thought it sounded so good when I played it, but now, when I hear a recording or when I hear it from the front, I'm not getting that same effect. You would need to do a recording test or have someone else play it, or I think the most efficient way would be to block it. And a lot of luthiers, they do make like some kind of suction device that you can like stick over the sound port in case you don't want to do that. And I would not, if there were one of those devices, I would not even try out the guitar without it, because as soon as you hear the sound coming through that sound port, that's going to be hard to get out of your head, and it may not be representative. It in itself, I will say, is not representative of, is that a higher quality sound than another guitar that doesn't have the sound port. Okay, so just be careful with that. I don't really care who likes sound ports and who doesn't. I have my opinion on them, but I might be wrong. I may be making another video next month like, oh my gosh, I love sound ports. They're the best thing ever. I mean, I don't think so. But it doesn't matter. I'm just saying I don't want anyone to be duped because of the sound port. Okay? And then the other trinkets, I don't really think they're make or break. I don't think any player needs them. And I don't think any player, can't do without one of these things. Okay, so now let's talk about where in the heck do you find one of these instruments, okay? I may or may not can help you, but I can give you some places to start. I would always recommend playing a guitar like this before you buy it. So you could go online, you could go to sites like Reverb or eBay and find a nice, Jose Ramirez guitar or Mariano Tesanos guitar or whatever. And there may be a return policy and all that, but I would never be comfortable unless I could sit down and play it, okay? So I would look for a vendor or a someone that does consignments or someone where you can have that situation. Also, I think really you should have several instruments to choose from. To go, especially if you're building your feel for these instruments, to go and play an instrument, one, is not going to be near as valuable. I would say 3 is a good number. And if you have 5 or 6, that's probably even better. Okay. More than that, maybe it's kind of too much to think about. I don't know. But the first time I bought a serious instrument, I had 3 to choose from. And that was extremely valuable for me because I could see, okay, all of these are very great instruments. They're great instruments. The quality is extremely high. Now this one does this and this. This one does that and that. This one does these things. Now what do I want the most? And I picked the one that I thought, I think this, it has the qualities that I think are most important. And it does the things that I like the best more than the other 2. There are retail places for these types of instruments. Guitar Salon International, they're somewhere in California, probably LA, I think, is one. There's a popular retail shop called Sikas that's somewhere in Europe. I'm not sure, either like Germany or Spain or something like that. And you can find them online. Those places, they're great resources to hear a lot of these instruments, and you can hear a lot of amazing players play them and kind of see, well, what kind of sounds can they get out of guitars like this. I wouldn't recommend buying a guitar from those places though, because it's retail prices. So if spending money is not a problem at all, then that might be for you. I mean, because you could go in and there's going to be more guitars there than you could play probably, and they're all going to be in this ballpark, $5,000 and above. Okay, but I'm just gonna guess. I don't know. I've never been to one of these places, but I'm just gonna guess you'd spend an easy grand, $1,500 more, just in the retail price. So a lot of options. Yeah, probably knowledgeable people that work there Yeah, without a doubt. You're going to be spending more money? Yeah, you're going to be spending more money. But for some people, that is a viable option. If you don't feel like that's an option for you, then classical guitar festivals. So the big, I live in America. I'm in Texas, and the biggest classical guitar festival we have in America is called the Guitar Foundation of America Festival, the GFA. And last time I went, it was in Denver, Colorado, and they had a whole building that was like, it was like a huge warehouse looking building, and it was filled with like 50 luthiers. I mean, I could not believe how many guitars were in there. And basically, these are people from around the world pretty much. I mean, a lot from the States, but also people from all over coming to try and meet people and sell their instruments. So that is like more than enough. And then these prices, I'm pretty sure, are going to be on the wholesale side. And if you're good at bartering and all that, you know, hey, you catch someone on the last day, they haven't sold a guitar, they really need to sell one. Who knows? You might get the deal of a lifetime. I don't know. I would say you have a much better chance there dealing with the person that made it than with a retail shop. So that is a huge resource to find a luthier, play some guitars, get a good feel, maybe find the one that's right for you. The challenge in that situation is you would really need to take the guitar outside that room. I mean, you can't play something in there and get a feel for it. I don't really think it's possible. So I'm not sure. I did play some guitars there. I wasn't in the market. I just was talking to people and played on a few guitars that were nice. But then in your area, if there are smaller festivals too, like I live in the Metroplex in Texas, DFW area, and we have a few small festivals here. And usually at those, like if there's a little competition or something, sometimes there's a weekend-long thing at a college, something like that, usually there's one or two luthiers that come. And what they're there for is just to bring some of their instruments. And as you're going to see the competition or you're going to see the famous artist that's playing concert that night, they have their table set up and they have some guitars out. And you can just walk up, be like, hey, what's up? What you doing? Like, oh, well, I got some guitars. Do you like guitars? Oh, yeah, I like guitars. Check this one out. And I mean, it goes pretty much like that. They let you play it. You can ask them, what kind of top is this? Well, it's spruce. It's from this specific country in Europe that has such and such qualities, blah, 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 whatever. What kind of bracing do you use? Well, I use the Spanish fan, it's 5-fan, but also use an extra brace here. And, they're going to know. I mean, it's going to be, unless it's a vendor, which sometimes you find vendors, but also I know luthiers come to these things too. And so they can tell you all about their instruments. And I'm guessing those prices also are more on the wholesale side for sure, because you're getting it straight from the source. I mean, they're not paying anybody to sell their instruments, so why would it be retail prices? That's a good place. And then the other thing I want to mention is you just may be able to find. I mean, there are people that are collectors. Most collectors buying and selling is part of their game. Even people that are wealthy and they can afford a lot of guitars, it's still like, they have wives and the wives aren't always okay with their 70 plus guitar collection. So when they buy another one, sometimes their wife says, you know what, it's you selling a guitar or sleeping on the couch or whatever. Anyway, so you can find people that have nice collections. They have a lot of these guitars. They'll be willing to sell some. So you may be able to, meet someone at a concert or go online and find someone in your area. There are also people that do consignments. So these people, this is like their job to sell instruments for these other people, right? And to be the network. So if you're in DFW, you want to talk to my good friend Gabriel De Hoyos. He is the owner and operator of Gabriel's Guitar Repair and Consignments. He does all kind of repair work on guitars. He also does consignments. So he knows all kind of people I'll put a link to his website in the description in this video, so you can just go right to him. If you're in the Metroplex anywhere, it would be worth a drive to the area. Or he also works with people kind of all over the states, because his ear is like right next to the ground in terms of the market. And if you're looking for something in particular, or you just need a good place to start, I don't know of a better person. I mean, this is just something that he does. So he knows several people that he knows a bunch of people that have nice guitar collections. There's always a few that someone is saying, yeah, I would like to sell this, so I can buy this, or I did just buy this, so I need to sell these. So here, Gabe, see if you can sell them. And okay, so then contact Gabriel. You say, my name is such and such. I'm looking for a handmade classical guitar. He says, okay, come by the shop these times. I'll have some stuff ready for you. And I guarantee you he'll have probably at least like 5 or 6, maybe more. I mean, he's always got stuff going on over there. And if you happen to be looking for something in particular, he's also really good at that. And then his prices are so much more on the wholesale side. They're not GSI prices. They're not Seekist prices, because it's not retail. So if you're in the Metroplex in Texas or around it, Gabriel's Guitar Repair and Consignments is the way to go, if you ask me. And if you're not, you may be able to find someone like him in your area, or a vendor in your area. Probably search online, go to some classical guitar concerts, go to some festivals. If you have a teacher, ask your teacher, and you'll find someone. I mean, you may find, do an internet search and you find someone locally that's selling a good instrument or something like that. But I would say just keep hitting up sources like that, and eventually you will find some good options for you, and you'll be able to find what you're looking for. And then I kind of have one last bonus area for you, I guess. I mean, I think we've pretty much covered all the important bases. I've probably talked enough. If you made it to this point in the video, I really applaud your attention span. But the last thing I'll say is there is an effect where a guitar just grabs you. And this has happened to me multiple times. I'll be somewhere and there's a lot of guitars there. They're not mine, they're other people's guitars, so I don't know them, but they're all really nice. All in the 5,000 and above range. So passing around guitars with people, someone hands you a guitar. What is this? Oh yeah, it sounds nice. Oh yeah, nice and clear, whatever. Pass off, get another one. What's this? Oh yeah, this is really sweet. It's very beautiful, whatever. Get another one, like, yeah, and then eventually get one and you're like, what is this? Who made this? And it's totally different. It is just, I mean, for me, I'm kind of a nerd, but for me it's like an instantaneous, like within seconds, I'm already feeling like, wait a minute. I mean, there wasn't anything wrong with anything else I just played, but this is different. This feels right. And if you ask people about their advice about guitars, they will probably at some point say, at some point it just feels right, or pick the one that just feels right. And it may kind of sound like a cop-out answer, but it's a real thing. If I could explain it more than that, I would. I don't really care to. It's just, it's very powerful. And the more experience you have, the more you have at your disposal, I think, for me, I feel like there's always particular things I'm looking for in my playing. I'm trying to bring out or learn how to do. And these instruments are so amazingly unique and sensitive. It's just that you, at some point in time, depending on what you're working with, and you're going for particular things, and then you find a particular instrument that just so happens to really respond to those very detailed things that you're going for, and it tells you, like, yeah, I love you. It's like, yes. It's a good match. It's a good match, okay? And I've felt this myself multiple times, and I've seen it in other people where they have the same thing happens to them. So if that doesn't happen to you, that's okay. It may not. I'm not saying it has to happen, but I would say if it does happen, I think it's definitely something to pay attention to. There is certainly an aspect of like a best fit. If I were going to go, let's say if I needed a guitar and I called my buddy Gabe and I'm like, Gabe, man, I need a guitar. What you got? And he's like, dude, come over. So I go over there and he's got 6 guitars. Okay. Now I could do this and pick one and it would be a great instrument. Okay. Like no matter which one I picked. But one of them, maybe not always, but there's a chance that one of them will have that effect. And that's what tells me, like, oh, I am actually seriously interested in this instrument. I mean, it's all these things that we've talked about, but there's something extra about it. So I just wanted to mention that because I think it's a real thing. And, I myself can't exactly put my finger on it. You may not be able to either. But if you're playing several nice instruments and you're not exactly sure, and then you get this feeling, I would say go with it. You're feeling that for a reason. And it's a little more than just what you're looking for. It's like it's an aspect of you two working together. And then you're just thinking like, oh my gosh, how is this going to develop as time goes by? And then it just becomes really fun. It's like meeting somebody new that you're super attracted to and they're attracted to you and you just have a great time together. It's just like that. It's like that. And you just think, man, I can't wait to get to know this instrument, and play all these different pieces and do all these different things and try out these different sounds and see what it has to teach me and what I can get it to do. It's super duper exciting. So if that happens, I would say go with it. And I, if a guitar is out of your price range, that just kind of is what it is. I kind of tend to only play guitars in my price range, for the most part. I mean, I played some really nice guitars that I know I can never buy in my life, because they're like 50 grand, right? And they sounded amazing. Like, yeah, I love them. But, I just kind of looked at them that way. If I'm serious about buying an instrument, I like to lay out instruments that are all in my price range. So if that happens, I'm not going to get my electricity cut off because I had to buy that guitar, right? So I just wanted to mention that last. So I hope this super long video helped you out. Really, I don't think this is a video that is going to appeal to everybody. But if you're kind of interested in a handmade classical guitar, but it's brand new to you, there's kind of a lot to consider, so that you feel comfortable making your decision and you feel like you get your money's worth. And so some of the things that are coming. I mean, this is not just getting the guitar and then, okay, great, I have it. Now you're going to have a working relationship with this instrument. And so you want to start it off super excited, feeling like it's a great fit, and basically feeling like, yeah, if I spent the rest of my life only playing this guitar, I'm fine with that. I'm pretty happy, actually. Most people that end up buying a guitar end up buying another one at some point. Me too. I get it. But if you had to only play on that guitar, you would still think it was great, and it would be a very good fit kind of for the rest of your life. So good luck. If you watch this video and you end up getting a guitar, let me know about it. I would love to know. I think it's really cool. If you have any questions, you can ask me wherever you want. I mean, there's links in the description where you can contact me or you can make a comment. I usually respond to any kind of question in the comments as long as it's like a respectful question. So I'd be happy to help you if there's anything that I left out. And best of luck in buying a handmade classical guitar. And take care. Bye-bye.